I'm Whitney.
I'm Mindy.
And I'm Deb.
We're three best friends who love nerdy things.
Well, some people think we're nerdy, but we think we're pretty awesome.
This is Our Nerdiest Thing.
Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to Our Nerdiest Thing. Today, we are continuing our discussion of Raven Kennedy's Gold, Book 5 in the Plated Prisoner series. We will be discussing chapters 17 through 26. As always, we are spoiler-friendly and spoiler-heavy, so listen at your own risk. Deb, will you please start us off with our nerdiest cocktail?
I don't know why I'm surprised every week when you call on me. I'm sitting here looking at the notes, but I'm like... I don't know why I'm surprised.
I do that starting the whole episode. Like, wait, what do I say?
Wait, we're doing this again?
What is this?
Okay, so tonight's drink is named Sweet Revenge, and it's themed after killing everyone that's pissed you off.
Of course.
It pairs well with kidnapping, the blood of your enemies, and finding that fucking horse. And it may cause you to act erratically and irrationally.
Yeah.
So you, if you want to dye some large grain sugar, you can have a black sugared rim.
I thought you were just going to say if you want to die.
If
like, wait,
you
what?
want to dye your sugar, you can have a black rim for Slade. We did not do that because we're lazy.
Because we want to live.
Right, yeah. But we have rum and lime juice and ginger ale and maraschino cherries. And I put grenadine in it because it wasn't quite sweet enough since it's called Sweet Revenge.
Yeah.
So
it's delicious.
It's delicious. It'll be on ournerdiestthing.com and Instagram.
Thank you so much, Deb.
You are so welcome.
I don't want to die, so I appreciate the lack
If you want
of
to dye
black
your sugar.
That is a cute idea, though, to have black sugar for Slade.
Black
It's the
sugar. How come you taste so good?
Okay.
Last time we had a rum drink, we went off the rails.
Yeah, we did.
Some of us went off the rails.
Somebody had to keep us on track.
Somebody did not go off the rails.
Whitney tonight was like, I just need a little bit. And I was like, okay, we're going to go for it.
I think
I'm fine.
Deb and I
Everything's fine.
took all of what Whitney did not have in hers, plus some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have fun with that. I guess I'll have fun with that.
You'll have fun trying to get us to shut the fuck up later. And putting in the show notes to my husband, if you can
Please
clean
help.
that up at the end.
Please help. Oh, man. Well, now it's time for our nerdy and dirty recap. Mindy, you have spun the Wheel o' Names.
Yes, the Wheel of Names has spoken, and it's Deb.
What? How did,
Dun, dun,
how did it say it?
It said Deb.
I would have gone the other. Deb. All right, Deborah, I'm getting... I said that so weird.
Wait, who's supposed to be on the rails?
Just Deb is fine, Whitney.
I said that the weirdest possible way.
Whitney.
So sorry.
Whitney.
See, now I've got the giggles. It's going to be hard to overcome.
She's had
them.
a half a shot of rum.
Not even that. Oh, okay. I'm getting my 1 minute timer.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Set. Go.
Thurstal and Australia are accused of harboring Arin as a fugitive, and Arin uses her gold to stop the guards from killing Thurstal. When she attacks, Arin starts to lose her shit, and she's like, I don't submit to anyone, mister, and begins to knock down guards with her gold. A stone sword tells Arin that she's going to have consequences, and she's like, I am your fucking consequence! So poor Nanette gets stabbed in the stomach, and Arin kills the guard by drowning him with her gold, just like she did Midas. I think Arin might be going a little dark side. Arin decides to travel with Wick and help with the revolution. Slade, as Commander Rip, turns his focus to revenge on the crew that deals dew, not Mountain Dew, the like opium stuff, and kills a bunch of the Red Raid. He frees the saddles and rots the ship that's headed for the Second Kingdom. Slade finds the captain of the Red Guard and demands that the horse he was shorted, who is Arin's favorite horse, be returned to him, and leaves the captain a small piece of rot that'll kill him slowly. Slade has come to grips with his list of revenge and has come to close, and now he's gonna just worry about Arin. I still had 3 points.
It is like you get that countdown of a few seconds left, and it's like, I'm just gonna give up.
Yeah.
That's what I did last week.
It stresses me out when you're like 10 seconds, bitch. Okay, do you want like a real quick recap of the final?
Go for it, yeah.
So that way our readers are like, oh yeah, that did happen. Okay, so don't forget that, we're not going to read this whole thing, but don't forget that Queen Melina is with the assassin and she can't decide if she dislikes or maybe doesn't dislike traveling with him. The queen asks the assassin to take her to a nearby village where unfortunately they found all the people slung up on clotheslines, which is super graphic.
Yeah.
And Digby punches Slade in the face.
I enjoyed that moment. Yeah, I enjoyed that moment.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. Remember last episode, I was like, where's Digby?
Yes.
So I was really glad.
There he
Except
is.
for none of us knew his name.
We're like, where's Digby?
That guard guy.
Yeah, you know, the one guy.
He reminds me of, what are the, I like butler type of people in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series?
Oh, Fritz.
Fritz. He reminds me of Fritz. I think
The Doggin.
The Doggin.
Before you said Black Dagger Brotherhood series, I was going to say Mr. Belvedere. I'm glad I let you finish.
Welcome back to 1972.
I'm glad I let you finish before I was like, Mr. Belvedere.
He does not remind me of Mr. Belvedere. He reminds me of Fritz from the Black Dagger Brotherhood. We love J.R. Ward around here.
Well, Deb, you did a great job with that recap. Thank you so much.
I did, and I got to point 7.
Well, you know, no one's worse than me in previous episodes. So.
I did tell my
You've
kids
got
this
that.
week. I was
think
like, there's always someone better than you and always someone worse than you. Just keep that in mind.
I think I've only made it in time once.
Yeah, I mean, we're all not great at
Yeah,
actually finishing, but some of us are better than others.
We don't like premature, whatever we want to call it.
Ejaculation.
We don't want you to
That
finish too quickly.
Yeah, that too.
Okay.
Premature summarization.
Summarization. Yes.
Oh, man. Well, on that note, we might as well go ahead and do our nerdiest vocabulary.
We might as well.
Because, you know, we do the, not urban legends, urban dictionary, and it's always penis something. So,
Well, I didn't go to the Urban Dictionary this time. So
She went to the urban vaginosaurus.
did you say vaginosaurus?
I majored in vaginosaurus in college.
You can't make me laugh when I take a drink. That almost just came out of my nose. I thought Robbie majored in that, not you.
Touche.
No, you studied from the dictionary.
Yes.
You know?
Anyway, Mindy. Go ahead, Mindy. I'll be quiet.
I won't.
Well, I hope you all derail me as usual because it's always fun. So this time on our nerdiest vocabulary, I wanted to focus on the assassin. And bear with me because it actually goes off the rails on its own. So, but bear with me and I'll pull it back around to the book at the end. So his name is Domik. And there's really not much out there on this name, but I did find one website called nameslook.com.
And the names look?
Names Look, yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure it's super legit. So they
Peer reviewed and all.
they list the name with absolutely no known origin. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But I did find it very appropriate that they listed the meaning as energy, helper, and stimulator.
Ooh.
Right? So it kind of goes.
Stimulator.
I'll let him stimulate her.
So the next thing I wanted to define, because, and correct me if you all think I'm wrong, and we'll just cut this whole part out. But I believe he has vitiligo.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, which can you tell the listeners what that is?
I actually am. Yes.
Know?
So, and
You're like, I was going to.
well, I had to find out how it was pronounced too, because I did not know it was pronounced that way.
Yeah, I always thought it was vitiglio.
But I thought it was vitiligo.
Yeah. All right.
It is
Potato vitiglio.
So, vitiligo is an autoimmune disorder, and it causes patches of skin to lose their pigment or color.
That's what Michael Jackson had, right?
Exactly. And they're famous vitiligans, and that is actually a word that's used to describe people who have vitiligo. So, in addition to Michael Jackson, some other models, musicians, and public figures have this condition. Winnie Harlow, she's one that competed in Next Top Model.
Want to be on top?
Yes, yes, I do.
That's the
Or
theme
bottom,
song.
either
Only
way.
on days I want to be in control.
That's the theme song, just in case any listeners think that I just randomly asked.
I will link America's Next Top Model in the show notes so everyone knows you're not nasty.
Another model, a male model named Darius Vernon. You look him up. He's all hot and tatted up. So he also has vitiligo. Michaela DePrince, who is an up-and-coming ballet star. And this one I did not know. Holly Marie Combs.
Oh, I didn't know
from
that
the Charmed
either.
television series. And then, like you said, Michael Jackson. So those are some famous people. There are a lot, actually. I just kind of pulled a few.
Really, in one of the Deadpools, the second Deadpool, that actress doesn't actually have vitiligo, but I think the character does.
Domino.
Yeah, the character does, and like she does. They do a really good job with it on that show.
So now to bring it back to the book, Dominic feels like he has to hide this condition, right? But Melina sees it as beautiful. So I wanted to look a little bit in the etymology of the word vitiligo. And it's believed to have come from a Latin root that means vice, fault, or guilt. It's linked to the etymology of the word vice. So you can see how this is going in a not great direction, right?
Like it's a punishment of some kind.
Yeah. So the entry for vice is where it gets really interesting. Vice means moral fault or wickedness. And it's from the old French word that's spelled the same way, meaning fault, failing, defect, irregularity, or misdemeanor.
It makes it sound like a curse.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a punishment.
It definitely has a negative connotation. It also perhaps came from the Latin vitium, which means defect, blemish, or imperfection, both in the physical and the moral sense. So I find it fascinating and actually a little appalling that this word derives from such a negative root, and it's still regarded today as such.
Yeah.
So I personally find it beautiful. I think it makes you unique, but it just reminds me that our world still places so much value on a very skewed perception of beauty.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this before so much. I won't go too much into it, but why can't everyone be beautiful? Because that's how they are made, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most people can't even argue that that's a major tenet of the Bible and really anybody.
Yeah. It also speaks to that desire. If something unpleasant happens to others, we want to explain why it happened to them. And so to think of it as like, well, something must have happened that they're being punished for.
Yeah.
And I can avoid that if I just don't do whatever that thing was, instead of thinking of it like, well, it's an autoimmune condition that just kind of happens. Like, we don't like explanations like that we can't protect ourselves from. You know what I mean? So,
I just find it interesting that it doesn't derive from like color or colorful or something more positive,
or even like absence of color, right?
Yes.
Or like disappearance of color. It's a punishment.
Defect.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Well,
anyway.
that's very interesting. My dad has vitiligo, actually.
Does he really?
Mhm. On his hands. He's a vitiligan.
He's a vitiligan.
I feel like we should start showing him like the Trekkie sign when we're like, Sir vitiligo.
Well, thank you so much, Mindy. Yeah, you don't see very much representation for vitiligo in most anywhere. Winnie Harlow is pretty much a trailblazer.
I was about to say, she's
that.
really brought that disease to the surface and made people, really looks at people and says like, so what?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like that a lot. I like that Dominic is in this book. Well, that brings us into our favorite moment. I'll go first because Dominic is in my favorite moment.
He's in mine too.
Ooh, I really, really love the realization that Melina has that both of them have really, that they like to look at each other. And he's like, obviously very self-conscious about his condition and the way that his skin looks. And he always keeps the hood up. And I mean, part of that is because he's an assassin, right? And he's got he's a shadow daddy. He's her shadow daddy.
He is a shadow daddy.
He's hiding, right? Like, it's not just about being an assassin. He's hiding because clearly he has been mocked and mistreated because of the way that his skin looks, right? And I just really love that moment where she's like, I actually like looking at you. I find you pleasant to look at. And he's like, I like looking at you too. And it's just so cute to me. It's like little, young teenagers that are like kind of awkward with each other, but it's really, really sweet. I loved that a lot. That was my favorite moment.
Mine is really just all of the banter between them. And I did love that we found out what his name was. It only took, two books for that to happen. But maybe it's because I really love enemies to lovers, but there were a few quotes that I was like, oh. Okay, so one of them was, there's a reason the word assassin starts with ass. I thought that was
one of my favorites too.
He says to her, if I get on my knees, it'll be for an entirely different sort of devotion that would have nothing to do with you being a queen.
I liked that too. Yeah.
My third one was, you like looking at me? I like looking at you too, Queenie. So the same as yours.
Yeah.
And then the final one was, I bet if I were to slip my hand beneath your skirt, I'd find the cold queen isn't so cold between her thighs.
Damn.
So yeah, I like the slow burn of those two.
Me
but
too.
one of my burning questions is, who is he?
I know.
Yeah.
We still don't know.
We don't really know where he came from. Like what? Like where's his magic come from? Like what's his lineage like?
Yeah,
like,
he kind of, when we first get introduced to him, he's, I mean, pretty much plucked from the background of the book, and
Right.
Midas is like, hey, go do this.
But
Yeah.
And
do we ever
that's
see
it.
Midas tell him to do that, or does he just show up? Because I don't feel like I even
I
know
don't
if
think
that's...
I'm pretty sure that the POV or the narration that we get is that Midas has heard about this guy and picks him to go take care of Melina.
Oh, okay, because I thought he just showed up. And if he did, then
No.
you could be like, well, we don't even
There's
really
a
know.
really brief interaction that we see where Midas like finds him wherever,
Oh,
like
okay,
in the
okay.
stables or wherever it is that he was working.
I feel like we should have a section on the podcast that's like, and Whitney knows it.
Only if it has that theme song.
or it could be, what did Mindy and Deb forget?
Again.
Well, but I mean, that's all we know about him though, right?
Yeah.
Like Midas like hears about him and is like, yes, that's the right guy for this job, but that's
But
it. That's the only intro.
Is that actually who he is, or did he kind of plant that? Like
I don't- yeah,
I
right,
don't
exactly.
feel like the intentions are different than what he's saying. I feel
Yeah,
like.
I don't know. There's a lot of questions.
Well, and you've read the whole book, so you're always like, I don't know.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out. What was your favorite moment, Mindy?
I actually had one really quick one and then another one that was a little more serious.
Well, you have to pick one.
Shocker.
Oh.
Narrow it down.
The quick funny moment I loved is just a visual of when Arin hits the guard with her gold, and then Raven Kennedy describes it like this: he tumbles to the ground, limbs pinwheeling, head swiveling like an overturned turtle that can't flip over. And just try not to laugh picturing that.
I was picturing like weevils, like all of them, but they were actually falling down like bowling pins.
Yeah, that just made me laugh. But my actual favorite moment is when Arin and Nanette are in the field, and it's right before they're getting ready to head out. And the little girl comes up and hands her the feather, and it sets off sort of this chain of the rest of the Volman to start handing her feathers, right? Mm-hmm. And that moment when Arin kind of realizes the meaning of it and says that it's what she has always wanted, which is acceptance.
No.
And I mean, isn't that ultimately what most people want? So to be accepted for exactly who they are. And then she ends that whole scene wondering if maybe Slade won't be able to find her until she finds herself. I just so precious, you know?
That actually goes into my least favorite moment.
Oh, really?
It kind of like corresponds with that, yeah, because my least favorite moment was when Arin like truly understands what the broken winged bird means. It says, it's not just the frayed dress that flapped with Sarah Turley's fall. It's not just my ribbons that burst from my back in the air as I dropped through the sky. It's these fae who feel trodden, clipped. It's their way of life yanked out from under them while they're shoved aside and left to plummet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she's realizing it's so much bigger than she realized.
Yeah.
It
They
was.
are all broken
Yeah.
winged birds.
Right.
All of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So to know that you're that powerful and you haven't been there, first of all, and number two, you see all these people suffering, which I mean, she has suffered, don't get me wrong, but she always had a meal. She always had a home.
Right.
You know, but
Yeah.
yeah. It's sad.
Yeah. Well, and they want to be accepted too, right? Like she wants to be seen and accepted for who she is instead of like what she stands for. And they kind of do too, right? Like they want to just be able to be who they are without being afraid to be who they are,
right?
Regardless of who they support or don't support, right? And they don't have that opportunity. Well, my least
politics.
Yeah, right. My least favorite moment is like a super big bummer.
Let's hear it.
Just to let everybody know, bringing it down real quick, the slaughtered village that you mentioned in your recap, in Sixth Kingdom, like, and just the whole situation of it, where it's like, I think Melina says this is completely out of the way from where they would be marching, where they are marching. They deliberately came out of their way just to kill all of these people, like for no reason.
Killed like a pregnant woman.
Pregnant women, the children, and then like completely, defiled and disrespected their corpses, hanging them the way that they did, and, leaving them out in the freezing conditions and stuff. And it's very rough. However, I will say I do appreciate Melina's, I guess, character development is the best way to say that. The development that she has of being humanized and seeing them as people and wanting to do right by them and taking them down and wanting to give them a proper burial, even though they can't really because it's too, the ground is too frozen and all that. Like, that's a good character development moment for her. But that's just rough. Yeah. That's a rough scene.
I read something really interesting this week. Have you ever heard of coffin births?
Coffin births? No.
So it's essentially if a pregnant woman is, like, if she dies, I was going to say murdered. She doesn't have to be murdered. Yeah. If she dies, the gases from your body, like when they expel out, will actually make the baby come out. So they have found all of these old burial sites of like these coffin births. So like the baby came out. I don't know if that means the baby's alive. I didn't look that much into it, but I happened to see a picture and it's like really sad. Oh man, really sad of just skeletal remains.
Well, sure,
but, yeah. It's really interesting that your body would do that though.
That is
sad.
I know.
There's no other way to put it. It's awful.
That's my new least favorite moment.
I know, but when you said that, it made me think of it, and I read like part of it, and then when I saw that picture, I was like, I think I'm done looking at this article.
Yeah,
I'm done.
No,
Thanks.
I don't blame you. I would have been
Thank
too.
you,
Mindy. What was your least favorite moment?
I'm not going to bring it up too much, actually. So my least favorite moment is the abused animal fighting. I'm just such an animal lover, and just the description of the scars, how they clipped the timberwings' wings, they're hot prodding, they're starving them. It's just disgusting. And I kind of had an inkling that this still goes on today, this animal fighting. And I wanted to delve into the origins and maybe what is being done to get rid of it today. So I went to, this is the most fun place I've been on the internet, the Encyclopedia of World Problems.
World Problems?
Yes.
Is it just like a never-ending website?
They call it Debbie Downer.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I guess this is a world problem, but animal fighting sports, they're considered entertainment for gambling purposes. And it's seen worldwide. Some common matchups include like a snake versus a mongoose in Asia. You see dog versus a dozen large rats in Europe. A bear versus several dogs in Pakistan.
Oh my gosh.
Or even a man versus a bull when you think about bullfighting in Hispanic culture. So in almost all of these cases, it's a fight to the death. And gambling is even more common in the cases where it is a contest between animals fighting with their own kind. So the most common being cockfighting and dogfighting. Yeah. And in these cases, they're put in a pit where they can't get out and then prodded and poked to make them more agitated, just like in the book. And in cockfighting in particular, the cocks wear long metal spikes on their legs to puncture the bodies of their opponents. Right? Ugh. But dogfighting is definitely the most common. And it can be traced all the way back to the Middle Ages, like fueled by bloodlust and the lure of financial gain of that time. Today, the dogs are specifically bred to do this from the time they're born, to recognize the flesh of other dogs as food and their blood as something to drink. They're bred from the time they're born.
Gosh, that's horrible.
These like puppy mills?
Yes.
Is that what that is?
Yes. Okay. Often the method used to do this is to starve the animal and then put it in a cage with a weaker animal who's been cut so that it's bleeding. I know, it's just disgusting. To build their stamina, their training includes putting them on treadmills and baiting them with freshly slaughtered meat or even live kittens, which I like literally had to go cry. I'm like, live kittens?
That's awful.
But I mean, this is what they're doing in this book, in this scene.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And you got to think, like, what kind of psychopath does that?
Yeah.
Like, ugh, I don't know. Thankfully, though, dogfighting is illegal in much of the U.S. and the U.K., although it is still practiced in secrecy. Usually in obscure places like a country barn, sometimes on boats, or even empty swimming pools of country estates. And apparently in the UK, someone even...
Are these people with swimming pools fucking bored? Put water in that shit and go swimming.
I'm guessing it's abandoned, yeah. But somebody in the UK recorded the fights, and then they sold the video to people who, quote, wanted to participate, but from the safety of their own homes.
Well, sure. As you do.
Yeah. So, making money off
Because
that.
you want to be a horrible person, but you want to be comfortable while you do it.
Right. Just be more secretive about it.
Yeah. Recording it is going to keep it a secret.
Right.
Cockfighting is illegal in the U.S. as well, but the last state to make it illegal did so as recently as 2007.
Was
Which
it
state?
us?
I cannot remember.
Was it Kentucky?
I was
might
going to
have been.
say
I don't think it was. I want to
Alabama,
say
Kentucky.
I want to say it was Louisiana, but I could be totally wrong.
That would also
That
track.
tracks.
So advocates of the sport, like people who are actually like advocating for this, claim that religious or cultural relevance is the reason to support the continuation of the practice.
Religious relevance?
Yeah, which
Okay.
like dogfighting is still being done. This is cockfighting, still being done in secret all over the country. And I don't really even want to get into the cricket fighting that takes place in China.
Like bugs?
Yeah, it's insane. There was way too much to dive
They're
into.
like an inch long. How can you tell what they're doing?
That's what she said.
It's very
Feel it.
But that's why I put the link in our show notes to this webpage, because it's very
Crickets.
That's
weird.
bizarre.
It's just very bizarre.
Yeah.
So finally, the effects of this practice are far-reaching and widespread. Not surprisingly, psychologists have seen that children who are exposed to animal fights have extreme emotional effects from the experience. I mean, duh. They basically educate humans to become desensitized to suffering. And it's not that far of a jump from animals to humans. And
That's
because
what the serial killers
I
do.
know.
Yep.
Because of the large financial stakes and the illegality, the mafia has been tied to it because, they need another avenue of profit,
Sure.
So do you want to hear the most pretentious thing I've ever seen done with the animal? And they were treated very kindly, but I was, we have a local event that happens here monthly, and I'm not going to say what it is because sometimes my business vends at it, but they had like their pet chickens one time, and they brought them like 5 of them, and they drew a tic-tac-toe square, and you would bet on who was gonna shit in the squares to win tic-tac-toe. And I was like, that is the most pretentious bullshit. Be like, you want to play some shit tic-tac-toe? $1 a square, man. Like $1 a square. And I'm like, that is a long
like you
game.
pick your chicken and have it go shit on the square.
You pick your chicken, and they're just running around this little coop, and they shit in the squares. And so whoever
Like
gets
who
3
does
in a row
tic-tac-toe
first.
first?
Right,
You're picking who you
with
think
their
is going to get 3 in
poo-poos.
a row.
How do
That's
they
really
mark
funny.
it? I mean, obviously
That's
there's
a
poop
very-
there, but how do they know which chicken's poop is which?
Somebody's,
Mindy,
somebody's watching.
I did not stand there long enough to figure that
Maybe
out.
I need you to do
by
some research
taste,
for me.
by taste or smell.
For the record, this was pre-pandemic. It was quite some time ago.
Oh, Lord.
That feels like a very Kentucky thing
Yes, it does.
to be happening.
You know how we can make some money? Let's have our chickens play poop tic-tac-toe.
I mean, my almost 10-year-old would be delighted by that game.
My
so.
kids thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, he would be delighted by that.
But you got to stand there for a long time to win a little bit of money.
I know.
Well, yeah.
They do poop a lot, but not like where it's like, you know what, I missed a square.
Not strategically. Yeah.
3 in a row. Cuckoo.
Yeah. Well, let's maybe bring it up a little bit from our least favorite
I
moments.
was trying to.
You
My
were.
bird poop.
Yeah. Well, poop is only like a step up from sad things.
I don't know. It's pretty fucking
I think it's
funny.
pretty hilarious.
Deb, will you get us started off with your biggest revelation?
Yeah, it actually had to do with what you said about Queen Melina and her being really a product of her circumstances and maybe not being a selfish queen bitch like we thought she was.
Right, yeah.
So I'm going to quote what she says that really was eye-opening for me. She says, "All my life, I've been wanted for the wrong reasons. Never for me. Only for what I could give the crown or give the men who wore one. So yes, it's my fault. I was offered my heart's desire. I was offered the right to rule. I was lured with magic and took it. I brought the Fae over the bridge. It's my fault everyone here is dead. All because I wanted to be worth something. To finally have what I lacked. And now I've doomed the very kingdom I wanted to rule." So, oddly enough, she really mirrors what Aaron says a few books ago in that all my life I've been wanted for the wrong reasons, never for me. Like, they are very alike.
Yes.
In a lot of ways.
There are a lot of parallels.
And you're really starting to see this softness in her in the fact that she was never allowed to contribute anything kind.
Yep.
Right? She was being pushed around by Midas just like everyone else was. Kind of glad that guy choked on gold.
I know, right? He's
I mean, I
pretty
guess if I
horrible.
was like shoved down and my personality was shoved down so much, I think I'd be a little bitter too, right?
She
I'd-
reminds me a lot of Nesta from
Yeah.
the Court of
Yes.
Thorns and Roses.
But I would also hate the person that my husband said was his favorite person to fuck every day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So,
100%.
and that has magic and that he's hiding behind too.
Yeah.
Do you think she knew
I
that he didn't have magic?
don't know. I don't think that we have seen any evidence one way or the other, but I think it was book one. Where Aaron overhears a conversation between Melina and Midas, and Melina says something like, I know the truth. And he's like, you better watch it. But I don't think we ever got any information about what that conversation was actually about.
That was like your mom voice. I can see you saying that to him. You better watch it.
You better watch it.
If you ever say it to me like that with that face, I'll be like, yes, ma'am. Be like, Whitney's about to ground me.
Yeah, that's my teacher and my mom voice. Mindy, what was your biggest revelation?
Mine was really just that Kef turned out to be a traitor. That really came out of nowhere for me. That was really weird. Like, I was like, I didn't never went there at all.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's so helpful. And no, but then I'm like, why did he help him so long? And then all of a sudden it's time to turn him in. I don't know. That was
so
weird.
I do remember being shocked by that, but I cannot remember who Kef is.
He's the guy that would take them in his wagon out to the fields every day and bring them back.
She was
right.
waiting for Slade.
Yeah.
He would
Yeah.
drive them out.
Right.
But another thing, and this is just a theory. I guess you could kind of call it a revelation. But remember last time I said, I wonder whose voice that is, the boy's voice she hears when she wakes up. Mm-hmm. What if it's Wick?
Ooh.
Because his interactions with her on the way to the safe house makes me think he knew her before somehow, or even though I know he's being shady because of what he was doing. But like, he seems too familiar with her.
Well, he's one of my, like, what am I looking forward to? What are my questions? Because I don't think he's being true about his intentions either.
No, I
There's
agree.
something
no, absolutely
about
not.
him.
It's-
He's going to be a villain, I feel like.
It's the whole thing with the like, put the hood over your head. And then
Right.
it's just like,
I'm going to shock everyone.
ta-da!
Yeah, it felt like Outlander whenever
Yes.
he makes Jamie take his shirt off to show
Yes.
his
Dougal.
scars.
Yeah,
It was just
Dougal's
like,
using him.
Dougal's such a bitch.
It's like there's no purpose for Wick to do that other than just like drama, you know, like
Drama!
right? Like why are you like that? Yeah. No, I agree with.
Yeah, there's something
Wick.
off there.
Wick is, as the kids would say, Wick is sus.
He is sus.
Yeah. Well, I had two revelations. One is that Slade's heart is rotting, which we find out at the end of this section. That, you know, the power, I guess, like using that much power to open a rip again did something to him. Like it's making him sick. Maybe it's that combined with the fact that Aaron's not there anymore.
Well, does she have the piece that's keeping him from rotting?
Maybe.
Yes, we
Yeah, because
talked
she's
about that
got
last
that
time,
piece,
too.
you know, inside that he couldn't get back out. Like that, there's
Or
a lot of
maybe
questions.
he needs her piece of. We talked about like maybe he needs a piece of her gold to complete their like.
Maybe,
mates.
yeah.
So maybe he needs that to make him, because he used his rot to make her come back.
Yeah, maybe.
So.
And one of my questions is she sick too? And like doesn't realize it. Like I wonder if the ribbon's not working for her is the equivalent of his heart rotting. You know what I mean?
Because he's not there to complete
Because
it.
he's not there, or she,
Interesting.
whatever the issue is.
That's so funny because that was one of my questions too. I was asking, do you think the ribbon power and the rip power are tied together somehow? Like the fact that her ribbons don't work and that he can't
also
make the rip.
Maybe, I don't know,
Here's
but
the
there's
thing,
a lot of
neither
questions
of
there.
them are eating, sleeping, or letting
True.
their magic replenish.
Yeah.
Like they're being
Right.
so irrational about
They're
this.
just panicked.
Like
Yeah.
and believe me, I get it.
Yeah.
Right? Like I would probably be doing the same thing, but if they would like sleep for 12 hours, eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and maybe not do magic for 2 days,
Right.
they might be in a better
Which is
spot.
exactly
Maybe.
what Riot tells.
Right.
That-
Slade.
yes, that's exactly what he keeps like. Hey, calm down for a minute, right?
Chill, dude.
So the other revelation isn't really the book, a revelation from the story. It's just my own
Like the
revelation.
Bible?
Yeah, the book of Revelation.
That's terrifying.
No, it's just like within my own head, and it kind of makes me sad to say it. But
Why do you guys keep bumming me out?
I'm kind of bored with Aaron's POV chapters. And I'm kind of bored with her chapters. There's obviously movement, there's action, but I don't really feel connected to it, to the action
I'm
that's
more
happening.
connected to Melina right
Yeah.
now.
Yes, me
Yeah.
too. I'm only like kind of paying attention to her chapters. I love her, but just not these chapters. So maybe that'll change as we keep reading.
I wonder if that's intentional, so that we will kind of bond with Melina a little bit.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. But one thing in Arin's chapters, this section did stand out to me, and it is so random, but I'm really glad that I looked into it. So the capital of Annwyn that Wick mentions is Lydia, which for whatever reason really struck me as weird. Just the name Lydia
keep calling
is
her
weird.
Lyadia or something too, don't they?
The word,
it's
whatever
very
their
similar.
language.
It's derivative.
Yeah, I was like, this is really weird to me. So I did a deep dive on the name Lydia. Okay, so this was a ride. I'm excited. I'm excited about this. I know, that's right. I was like, that is such a random name.
That's so funny you said it, because I did the same thing, but I read when I'm about to fall asleep, so I was just like, no, all right.
No, whatever, it's Lydia. Yeah, I was just
totally
like,
missed it.
what a weird name. So first I tried to find a connection to the name Lydia and just fae or fairy lore in general, and that was really a dead end. It kept sending me to a video game or like an anime or something, so then I was like, forget that. So then I just focused on the etymology. Word nerd, Mindy. So the name Lydia derives from Greek, and it means beautiful or noble one, which fits for the capital of Annwyn. And it is a feminine name. That in and of itself struck me as just perfect for the capital of Annwyn, because this whole series, the Plated Prisoner series, is very much focusing on the female characters. We have talked about this, we talked about this last week and a little bit today too. These female characters and how they're breaking out from under the oppression of patriarchy. Right? Arin, Rissa, Melina, every single female character is being used and abused by the men in the story. But these women are strong and resilient, and they fight their way out of it.
But even the women abuse women in this.
Well, yeah, that's true too.
Right?
Yeah, no, 100%. So this capital being a feminine name just really, I think, fits perfectly for this heavy focus on Arin and even Sarah Turley as the true leaders of Annwyn, right? These women that need to come in and replace the current evil man that is the ruler.
I know they mention, other rulers. In my mind, I assumed they were all women. It was like a female lineage that ruled.
It kind of comes across that way.
And none of the ones...
But we don't know for sure.
We don't know that for sure, but also the ones, whoever's... I can't remember their name. Whoever's ruling...
Carrick?
Yeah.
The Carricks, they're all men. Everyone they've mentioned has been men.
And aren't they in power right now?
The men are in power,
yes.
Right.
Not
So
the Turley family.
So,
but
so it's currently ruled by men.
Yes.
When it's going down in the shitter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they hold Sarah Turley up really as like this gold standard of leadership, right? And the men in this current ruling family have fallen very short of that.
Yes.
So Lydia being feminine, 1 point for Raven Kennedy. A million points.
Good job.
Yeah. So I also went into Lydia being a biblical name. That kept coming up a ton when you look up the etymology. So there is a Lydia in the New Testament in the book of Acts. She is a businesswoman and is both the Apostle Paul's first convert to Christianity in the location of Philippi and the first convert to Christianity in all of Europe, according to the New Testament. So Paul is a very prominent patriarchal figure. So it is significant that a woman is given credit as being the first convert in Europe. It's like its own leadership position and kind of setting a standard for everybody else, just like I think Sarah Turley and Arin are setting the standard for leaders in Annwyn. So I see that parallel. And also the fact that this Lydia of the Bible is a businesswoman. She's said to host a church in her home, like she owns the home. That would have been setting her apart from the patriarchal setup and Bible times, right? Like for a woman to own her own home and be given credit for owning her own home was kind of out of the ordinary. So I thought that was parallel too. So then the last thing that I want to focus on was the most interesting that I'm really excited about. Okay. So those first two things are like, yeah, okay, whatever. This, I was like, what? Okay. So this is the clearest connection to this book and this series. I found it in a random miscellaneous fact on the Wikipedia page for the name Lydia. It was like down at the very bottom of the page. And I was like, this is the most important one. Okay. So Lydia, there is something called a Lydia stone. Wait for it. That is used to test the quality of
Gold.
What?
Yeah. It's called a touchstone. A Lydia stone is a type of touchstone, which is basically a small tablet of dark stone like slate slate, slade, that has a finely grained surface that soft metals would leave a visible trace on as it's tested for purity. So these touchstones were used in both ancient Greece and in other early civilizations. It was mostly used to test coins to see how much gold was in a particular coin to assess how much value that coin held, right? So the connection to this book, Lydia, is the capital of Annwyn, where Auron is currently traveling to with Wick and the Volman rebels to essentially overthrow the evil king, right?
So they're going to test her quality of gold.
Is that not the ultimate test for Auron and her character and her strength and what kind of person she is?
Wow.
Right? Isn't that
So
cool?
Do you think Raven Kennedy added that Wikipedia entry?
I mean, surely to goodness, right? So I think that the name Lydia as the capital of Annwyn is a reference to the Lydia stone more than it is anything else, more than the feminist stuff,
course,
more than anything. I think that it's foreshadowing a huge battle for Auron, whether that happens in this book or in book 6 we know is coming, the final book of the series. Auron is already leaving her trace of gold, right? All over Annwyn for the people to hold on to hope, but also I think for Slade to find her, right? Like a breadcrumb path.
Not
for
to
him.
go back to Outlander, but it again reminds me of when Jamie and Claire get separated and she starts singing that folklore song.
Yes, yes,
It's
traveling
the same
all
exact
over.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that once she gets to Lydia, she'll leave her trace on Lydia too, just like gold on a Lydia stone. But yeah,
That's really cool.
I found that and I was like, whoa. And like it blew my mind. And I was like, I am so glad that I thought the name Lydia was so weird because that is a really cool detail. So
That's my daughter's best friend's name.
is it?
Yeah.
It's like a million points to Raven Kennedy for making that
that is
connection.
super cool.
Yeah, I loved that so much. But it also kind of scares me
I know.
for Auron. Like,
Something's coming up.
right, you're gonna
Yeah.
be like you're gonna be tested and so
Yeah, because she hasn't been tested enough. She hasn't been through
I know,
enough
right?
shit, has she?
is she really strong? Let's find out for sure, right? But anyway, I loved that so much. I thought that was really cool. So that was
Yeah,
my
good
biggest
job,
revelation.
Whitney.
Thank you.
I love it.
That's really my biggest revelation. So shall we talk about spice?
What spice?
Sexy times. Oh, I have one.
Oh, I just did my favorite scene because I was like, what spice is there? Besides, I already said the two things that the assassin said to her. But
That's my spicy scene.
Oh, okay.
I can see that. Yeah.
That's my favorite spicy scene where he's talking about her clit.
Like that's true. Like their
Talking
dirty
about-
talk.
Yes.
how much you
He
like
does
the
have a
word
dirty
clit
mouth.
now.
Well, in
How much you like saying it.
in very specific situations, right? But no, I really liked that whole where he was like messing with her because part of the whole thing with him and Melina is that she was raised to be a royal woman, right?
And
so
be proper.
yes, and be proper and be chaste and modest and all that stuff. And he's like, I bet your clit's throbbing for me. And she's like, oh.
Deary me.
Yeah, and that's for her, I think, and I guess for him too. The whole like this is forbidden.
She acts shocked,
Yeah.
but in her mind, she's like, well, yeah.
Yeah, she's like,
I don't.
I wish you'd find out for sure, but she's not going to say it out loud.
Don't
I
touch
loved
it. I
that.
bet you won't touch it. I bet you won't do it. Don't find out. I dare
Prove
you.
it.
Don't you
Prove
dare.
it. Prove it.
Don't even put your hand down there.
But yeah,
oh no,
that's
no.
what I wrote down as my favorite spicy scene. So
Yeah.
props to Dominic.
Well, I just did favorite scene because I didn't think about that in terms of spice. Although it is mine is just literally when Digby punches Slade in the face. That's my
That's
favorite.
pretty awesome.
He loves Auron so much that
I
he
did
will
like that.
punch a king on a tirade in the face.
It's
The
pretty
most-
sexy when a man does that for me.
The most, all those times, yeah. And Slade is like the most powerful king,
Yeah.
and his
Right.
power is super scary. And Digby has seen him in different circumstances than most
But I
people.
love how Slade's just like, well, yeah.
I deserve that.
Yes,
Yep.
I loved that too.
Yeah,
I
love
love
Digby.
Slade.
Again, Fritz, BDB. Like other brotherhood.
What about you, Mindy?
I'm like stressed that there's no spice, just so y'all know. So, but I just wrote that I found it sexy when a man like does like acts of kindness for his woman, and I just think it's sexy that Slade's trying to get her horse back for her.
I know.
That is really
I love
sweet.
that.
It's sweet.
You
but
love
it's-
cinnamon roll, though.
I do.
I
I
know.
do.
Or golden retriever.
Golden retriever, both.
Yeah.
I mean, same.
He's
same
equally
kind of
like touch her and die, burn down the whole earth.
Give me the fucking horse.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
also like it's her favorite horse. Give it back.
I didn't like that. I rotted your ship full of drugs and also freed all the animals, but where's the horse?
That's funny. What about chapter MVP? Did you pick Digby?
I didn't. I picked Nanette.
Oh.
Yeah. She dies with so much dignity, but really continues to be the sassy comedic relief through all of the first part of these part of the chapters.
Yeah.
She tells Aaron that there's a time for subtlety and a time to kick him in the balls, which I really loved. And when she gets stabbed in the stomach, she goes, typical. Things just started to get interesting, and then this. And she's like pointing to the sword in her stomach. She just, the use of her character really breaks up those intense scenes and honestly keeps the, like, we have to go into this alley and now we're in this house and now we're over here. It kept it from getting boring, which
Yeah.
I really liked.
I agree.
So, but I am sad Nanette's left. Like, she was a really cool side character.
I liked her a lot too.
Yeah, she was my MVP.
Mindy, who was your MVP?
Well, I know you didn't care for Oren's chapters, but she's my MVP because, and honestly, it's just because she's just a badass. Because, like, even though she lost control in that moment, right? She vows after that to never let her power control her again. So,
Well, she only loses control a little bit.
just a
Yeah, she doesn't almost decimate the entire town, does she? Again.
She was fine.
Because earlier in the series, isn't the whole thing that she, like, kills an entire city?
Yes.
Yeah,
She
right, that's like
completely
her-
loses control. Yeah.
Well, that's when Slade has to pull her back, right?
Well, no, this was
this
before
was
she met
Mi-
Midas.
this was
Oh, yeah,
Midas.
no, I
Yeah.
know what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
when Midas found her.
And
I
so
think.
she
Yes, you're right.
realizes in this that she's, like, right on the precipice.
Precipice?
Precipice.
She's right on the brink.
She's right on the precipice.
She's right on the brink of doing that
Yeah.
again, and literally has to scream at herself to stop.
I think that first time, though, that's the first time that power, like, manifested.
It was. It was
Yeah.
when she was young.
Yeah, she was a kid still. But
And didn't she end up, like, killing her caretaker
The
with
caretaker.
that?
Everyone.
Yes. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I remember that now because it completely wiped it off the map.
Can you imagine being like, wow, a city of gold? And then you're like, oh, but that's a
oh.
dead body in it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I wonder how much that's worth.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just love, too, that she also doesn't let herself become a pawn to Wick and the Volman. Like, he does that to her and she stands up for herself. She's like, I'm not going to be your puppet and I deserve to be asked before you use me as a tool.
Yeah.
For anything.
You guys, I don't understand what the Volmen are.
They're the rebels.
Yeah.
That's just the name of
Oh, so it's
their
not like
rebel
a
group.
supernatural creature.
No,
or
it's
anything.
just the name
I
of
was
the rebels.
picturing like a wyvern. Because doesn't it sound?
It
like,
does sound like that,
like
yeah.
a
I
dragon.
think vermin.
Yeah, that's true
And so
too.
I think of them as more evil in my mind than I think
I
they're
do
actually
too,
supposed
'cause
to be.
That word sounds wicked.
It does. It does. Anyway, I
Word nerd.
I know.
Our nerdiest vocabulary.
Can you look up Volman for next time?
I tried.
Oh.
Yeah, I
No.
did try that one, but
Well,
it was not. to
That's a
be.
Raven Kennedy special right
It
there.
is. I think she made that one up.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you like Aaron's chapters.
She's like, good for you.
because there's a lot of them.
Well, Whitney, she is the main character of the book.
I know. I think I just love Slade so much, and I'm like, okay, let's reunite now. Let's reunite now.
Well, you know
what
what's
I mean?
funny?
And his are more fast paced.
Yeah.
Well, but I will say I'm kind of getting tired of watching him just squash every kingdom over and over, like on the same. Like
I could listen or read it all day. I have and I will. Find more kingdoms to destroy. That's how I feel about that.
well, he's out. He's out of kingdoms.
I know.
Whitney.
He could probably find some more places if he really looked hard. Like if he put his mind to it.
You just wanted to say the word hard in the same sentence as Slade. That's all it is.
Well, who is your MVP?
Slade.
She literally just went, Slade.
I didn't mean to. That's embarrassing. No, I just really like him. I really don't have any specific reasons for choosing him as the MVP. I just really like him. I like.
He kept you interested.
Right.
Yeah.
Tetra and Die is one of your favorite tropes, though.
That's true. Yeah, I do like that. And I what you just said, Mindy, his chapters move a lot faster, which I guess I like that.
Yeah.
At least I don't always like that. Sometimes it makes me feel like confused in what's going on, but
Right.
I find it easy to follow his chapters. And I'm having a harder time following Aaron's POVs because I'm like, partly zoning out because I'm like, okay, we're walking with Wick. Like, all right, like what else are we doing? Which is funny because Melina's doing the basic same thing with Dominic, but
but it has the word clit in it.
I'm more into that, I guess.
Like if Aaron could at least say the word clit, I'd be interested.
Yeah, that's probably true. But I mean, I still love Aaron, but let's pick it up, girly.
No, I
you
get
know,
that.
like let's do some
I
stuff.
definitely get that.
I did pick Digby for my secondary character,
you
though,
did?
for
You
punching
did.
Slade in the face.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that a lot.
My secondary character was Riot. He
yeah,
really
he's
is kind of
great.
coming into his own, and he doesn't bow down to Slade, and is hopefully the key to helping the king get his shit back together. He convinces Slade to eat, to sleep, to
Yes.
replenish his magic, like I said earlier, and he also tells Slade that he will put him in his ass in 10 seconds flat, but it's only because Slade's heart is literally rotting.
Yeah.
But
like
I mean, I
Riot.
do like that Slade felt comfortable, and they don't have a very good relationship, which, to be honest, in these books, I've not felt the tension that like Raven Kennedy keeps telling us is there between them. Like it says all the time that they don't have a good relationship, but I don't see it all that much. They just seem like busy brothers to me.
I don't think it's necessarily that they don't have a good relationship. I think it's that they have so much baggage.
Right.
you know?
So I will say I loved that Slade told Riot. He hasn't told anyone else.
Yeah.
Right. But he went to him and said, well, look at this shit. My chest is black.
Right.
You know.
This isn't supposed to be happening.
I'm literally rotting from the inside out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
Yeah,
and I love
bit.
Riot's like, I mean, what do you want me to do? Like, what is he supposed
He's
to
like,
do?
oh, shit, again.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I guess he's not really a secondary character, but I picked the assassin because Dominic is snarky and irreverent, and I just think it's hilarious how he gets under Melina's skin. But he's also insecure, which makes him feel more human and likable. And I loved the interchange between him and Melina. And you brought this up earlier, Deb, where she says there's a reason the word assassin starts with ass.
Yeah.
And then he goads her on by saying, talking about my ass now, Queenie?
Yeah.
And even as later he gets vulnerable with her by revealing his face and everything, that he wears the hood to hide it from, like, he definitely shows his vulnerability in some of these chapters. I like where that's going with
Yeah,
him
I
and
do
Melina.
too. I like her character arc so far a lot. I'm interested and excited to see how it plays out. What about your favorite quote?
Mine is because one thing that usually threatens a man is the thought of being replaced by a woman.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is Aaron when she's talking about Wick.
Yeah, that was
Right.
one of my
Yeah.
contenders.
Yeah, I love that one so much. I mean, everyone knows I'm a huge feminist, so
Yeah.
yeah, which it's very, very true.
What about you, Whit?
I picked a Slade quote where he was talking about his like rampage of revenge, and he says that he's fighting all these other people, but he's actually fighting himself. It says, I'm fighting myself, my failure, where he's so angry at himself for not being able to open another rip, not being able to get to Aaron and like just get her back.
All
and,
of the main characters in this book are very self-deprecating.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I noticed that between Slade and Melina, they've both talked about being a failure in these chapters. I thought that was a very cool connection.
And Osric too, because he feels
true.
helpless.
Oh, we
and
haven't even talked about
I
Osric.
know.
I actually took it out of my 60-second countdown because I was worried I wouldn't have enough time.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, they're all like,
Yeah.
they're all feeling so guilty about the things that they haven't done or aren't able to do.
But so like,
It's rough.
but we're supposed to think though that Rissa's might die because she has an infection.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then I didn't really understand why Osric then went down to change Manu's stitches. I felt like he was trying to get information, but I never understood what that information
he was trying to, because she had to have her wounds done up. Did she have, I don't know if she had stitches.
She did, yeah.
Yeah. So he was basically, he wants to, it's an eye for an eye. He wants to inflict the same kind of pain on him that she's having to go through. That's how I took it.
Positive or negative. He told Manu, whatever happens to her is going to happen to you. So if
Oh, I
she's,
didn't remember that.
if
Okay.
she's able to, keep down liquids, you get to drink. If she has stitches, you get stitches. If
Well,
she, you know
and
what I
can
mean?
you remind me why that's connected to Manu?
Because he is the one that brought the Second Kingdom goon who stabbed Rissa in the first place
okay.
when he was kidnapping Oren.
Right.
He tried to stop the guy from hurting Rissa, but he's the one that brought him in to kidnap Oren in
I'm
the first
kind of
place.
hoping that we get a book of Osric and Rissa.
I would love that.
I would love that too.
I would too. I feel like she's setting it up, but I also know there's another book.
I know,
but I would love a whole series about them.
Me too.
I mean, her point of view is being a saddle and really being treated much more like a prostitute.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And being addicted to drugs and them finding each other. And I just think it's really compelling.
Yeah.
I like them a lot.
Yeah, I would love that a lot. I like Osric.
Did you say what yours was?
I didn't, and I only have one this
I'm
week.
sorry.
What?
Tell me, Mindy.
So I loved it when one of the stone guards says to Oren, "You will pay for that." And she responds with a shrug and says, "I'm made of gold. I can afford it."
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, so badass.
I liked that one a lot too. What about questions? I know we've all kind of mentioned a couple of questions. I can go first. One of the ones that I have, not just like is, because I mentioned this before, is Aaron also sick? Like, is the ribbons kind of the equivalent? But also, if Slade had some of her gold in his body the way she has the rot, would it help him?
Yeah,
like, is it the piece of rot that is making him sick, or is it getting that piece of rot back, or would her gold help him? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And also, I think it was Nanette. Aaron says somebody reminds her a lot of Millie, and I wrote, who the F is Millie? Like, I don't remember who that is. Was that her caretaker in that village where her power went crazy and she killed everybody?
I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I didn't have time to like look it up, but she was like, she reminds me of Millie, and I was like, who is Millie? I don't remember who that is.
Millie, and it's in From Blood and Ash.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. I was like,
I don't know.
All right, well, I should have looked that up, and I
That
didn't.
might be something
so
we need to be looking out for.
It's a mystery. What questions do you guys still have?
All of mine have to do with like Slade and Oren and how they're tied together. I mentioned earlier, is the ribbon power and the rip power, are they tied together somehow? Yeah. We talked about them like being mates. Like, is there some sort of bond? Because there's a point when Slade says his chest had hurt for hours, and I know that's obviously because has that rot, but then it subsides to a dull ache. Like, and it's placed in the chapters. It makes it seem like maybe that was when Oren was fighting the guards.
Oh,
so like, is that something like, does his get worse because she's doing something that's hurting her? I don't know. It just was very odd the way it was placed in the chapters and the flow of it.
I didn't make that.
There's got to be, but there's got to be something there, right? Like, there's something that's tying them together.
I wonder, like,
whether it's the rot or
if she was using her power and therefore his, if it was
making it worse
from him. Yes, that's interesting. That makes sense.
I really want to know when she's going to find out that there's a bridge that she could literally walk over.
She knows that there is a bridge, but not that it's
fixed.
Functioning.
Right.
Yeah.
So
and Slade too.
Right. Yeah. When are they going to find out that this bridge is fixed?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they'll get it on in the middle of the bridge.
That sounds terrifying.
See, the bridge in my mind, I know.
I'm picturing the bridge being in like Valaris, by the way.
See, I'm picturing like Mario Kart Rainbow Road.
Or like
that is what
Zelda when he has to go to the top of the mountain and you keep falling off the cliff, like one of those.
And see, I picture it like the rickety train track, like that's broken and like Stand By Me or something.
Do you want to know something really funny? When I was 9, we moved from Las Vegas to Arkansas, and I'd lived in Las Vegas from like 6 months old. So I had been to one lake. It was Lake Mead in Las Vegas, where they continue to find dead bodies. You that lake that is diminishing over time.
Nice.
So that I had never seen a bridge. I'd never seen any of that. And so we're going to go over the bridge at Hoover Dam as we're driving to Arkansas. And I thought it was like those rickety bridges you see like on Scooby-Doo that are wood planks and they like swing. And I refused to open my eyes. I was so fucking terrified of going. And my mom was like, okay, we're off. Look back. And I was like, that's a road. Yeah. That's not a bridge.
That's not a bridge.
Yeah. But I remember being like, we're going to fall off the side of this. Like,
that's exactly how I picture this bridge. Like a Scooby-Doo bridge. Yes.
But I picture it, though, because it's Faye made, is being like big and white and grandiose and sparkling, and there's plenty of room to fuck.
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
How do you picture it?
Rainbow Road. Yeah. Mario Kart Rainbow Road. Super Nintendo version.
Are they in the carts?
Oh, no.
Okay.
You get to walk on the... It would be fun if they still had the little arrows that make you go faster.
Maybe that's why Sarah had
like speed
blisters.
Do you get to hear the cool music?
Yeah, that would be fun. So besides, the bridge, sex on the bridge, maybe, question mark, what else are we looking forward to?
Something uplifting. That's what I said.
I really want them to reunite.
I know.
We're
I'm
halfway
dying
through the
for it.
book.
I wrote that down.
Here's
too.
the thing, though. I will say, I really dislike in books when it's like, oh, well, they're back together. We're in like chapter 4.
Right.
So I don't feel like it's been too long, but it's about to get there.
It's about time.
Yeah. Because, a really good example is the War of Two Queens. They're separated for, the first half of the book, kind of the same thing, and it feels like a good amount of time where you're not disappointed by the separation, but you're also not like, okay, God. Yeah, I really would like to see them reunite and figure out how they're going to get there, but I'm scared that they're not going to. I'm scared it's not going to happen in this book.
I just feel like these chapters were super, super heavy. Like
There
really was very little uplifting in them. So I'm waiting for something at least a little more uplifting than what we've gotten.
I had to pare down from 16 facts to 10, and I still didn't get through all of them in my...
Yeah. They were dense chapters. They were dark chapters. Yes. It's a lot of...
It was the best of times.
It was the worst of times. Yeah. I wrote down reunion too, and I'm looking forward. We've said this already, but I'm looking forward to more with Melina and Dominic. Yeah. I'm like the way that's going. That's like the uplifting. I mean, it's not uplifting, but that's like the bright spot in the story for me, because there's at least they have each other. They're not alone. Osric is alone or isolated from Rissa. Rissa is in a coma. Arryn and Slade obviously are not together, but like Melina and Dominic have each other at least. So I'm going to hold on to that. And I'll riot if something happens to them.
I've said this before, but I really hope that Melina and Arryn can easily work out their conflict and work together. Yeah. I would like to see women power in them come together and realize they were both being used by the same person for the same reason.
For the same thing, yeah.
And that they're not enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. I do think that Melina's either going to end up finding Arryn and working with her directly or with Slade. Like, I think it'll depend on how the Slade Arryn, do they find each other in this book or not, plays out. And that'll be an interesting dynamic
and
to me.
And how Raven Kennedy is going to make it believable that Melina does want to help. Because, I've said this a million times. We were talking about polyamory when we did Pucking Around. And I'm like, I'm a jealous bitch. Yeah. I don't know if I could get over it. Yeah. I would have a really hard time with that. But she's been very humbled by the situation.
But I definitely think Oren would, to me, Oren's more likely to give up that like negative thought of Melina more so than Melina would give it up to Oren. I don't know why I feel that way. I know Oren hates her too, but like I just feel like I don't know, in the grand scheme of things and the people that really dicked her over, Midas is way worse. Like if she's gonna have to,
she's not the worst enemy,
right? Yeah. Like I know I know it's gonna take time for them either anyway to like work to, or even like they might work together and just not, but still hate each other, right?
Right. They don't have to like each other. Like
it has
to
be like we have to do this because otherwise we can't. But I can see Oren caving a little bit before Melina. But I don't know. Like you said, she's softening up these chapters. So
and also Melina does not know that Midas is dead.
Oh, that's true.
Oh.
She and Dominic still do not know that Midas is dead.
I'm very excited about that.
So that might make a difference for Melina finding out, number one, that he's not around to be crappy anymore, but also finding out that Arryn is the one that kills him.
So that means
you know what I mean?
That
like that might make a difference.
Doesn't know of any of the kingdoms essentially being rotted, right? But
correct.
I'm interested to hear whose story Melina is going to hear.
Right. Melina doesn't know. Melina and Dominic don't know any of that.
Is Melina going to hear that queen story that Midas was going to marry, or is she going to hear Arryn's story?
Right. Because depends on who she finds first.
Right. Those are two very different points of view. Yeah.
Yep.
God, this is good writing.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Whitney, I fucking hate it when you've already read a book because you're like, I know you don't, I know you don't. But Mindy
I'm not saying anything.
You read so fast, so you can read this once and then read it again. Whereas I'm like, and also I'll forget shit if I work ahead. Me too. So and I stay with the pace of our listeners.
I'm just an overachiever. I can't help it. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about the book before we get into our nerdiest things of the week?
No.
Oh. Deb, you go first for your nerdiest thing
I will,
of the
because
week.
it's going to lead into your nerdiest thing
exactly,
of the week.
yeah.
So the sexual butler, a.k.a. the producer, a.k.a. my husband, a.k.a. good friend to Whitney and Mindy and their husbands. We have him so well trained with the podcast that he saw Crescent City 3, House of Flame and Shadow somewhere. I'm not going to say where because I don't want to get anyone in trouble.
Somewhere early, prior to the release.
So 5 days prior to the release, he found a book and he group messages us and he's like, when does, and he knew what it was called too. I call it Crescent City thing. He's like, when does Flame and Shadow come out? And I was like, why?
Yeah.
Like, because I was like, that is a very random question. And he just sends us a picture of him holding it. And I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. So then I get on the group and I'm like, I can't read that this weekend. And Whitney's going to read it in 24 hours. Whitney, do you want the book? So Whitney, what was your nerdiest thing of the week?
My nerdiest thing of the week was getting really excited to come pick up that book.
Not even letting her family chew slowly while they were having dinner.
Yeah, I was like, we'll come pick it up after dinner. And I was like, everybody eat. But no, I told you guys, I was trying to explain to my husband what this book was and what this book means and like the significance of the book. I'm like, this is my favorite author and some of my favorite series. This is like a huge deal. And he was just like, I don't know what. He didn't get it. So I did get it early and I did read it. Literally all I did was read this book and then go to my kids' basketball game.
Is there spice in it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I finished it I started it at like 7:30 Friday night, and then I finished it at like 5:30 Saturday night.
So there's a group on Facebook, I think it's the Sarah J. Maas Recovery group, and someone posted, they're like, okay, I'm reading Crescent City 1, and I don't understand the whole rune thing. Does he get more, what does he do in book 2? And I wrote, and then I noticed everyone else wrote, well, he does a lot in chapter 3 of book 2. And so then people started commenting underneath, they're like, 3 things with absolute certainty.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
For me, that is in like the romantasy world 2 of the hottest sentences I've ever read. Like, she did it so succinctly. And if you don't know what we're talking about, go read chapter 3 of the second Crescent City book. Yeah. You'll know as soon as you read it, but you're something like, it's pretty, fast paced at the beginning of that book. And you're like, okay, Bryce and all these people. And then it's like, boom, rune doing 3 things. Yeah. And I just remember being like, holy
and it comes out of fucking nowhere. You're like, whoa,
does.
okay.
Yeah. And it's great.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah. So that's my nerdiest thing. It was really good. I can't say anything because
don't you dare.
It's still 2 days before the book is released.
I have to tell the listeners, when you walked in tonight, you're like, where should I put this? You're like, we have it like encased in glass. I didn't tell you guys this. My husband had it in the car and he had to go to the grocery store and he hid it because he's like, what if someone breaks into my car?
Dude, I would have too.
And he texted me that and I said, yeah, you probably should hide it.
Yes, 100%. Like, that's what I was telling my husband. This particular book, the fact that somebody, mistakenly put it out early and that, that Brian saw it and got it and that like I got to read it and like you can read it early.
Well, and I told you,
crazy.
I was like,
the universe wanted us to have that.
It's crazy.
I'm like, but you're going to know what everyone else is dying to know, like millions of people, which is really exciting.
I know, it's really cool.
Here's the thing, even if I start it tonight, I can't finish it by Tuesday. Yeah. I just don't read as fast as you do. And I like fall asleep faster than you do reading. So
Yeah. So I read it and I loved it.
I know I'm trying to decide if I need to podcast prep tonight because normally I start our next readings or if I should start that.
You should start that. Start Crescent City 3.
I might.
Next week when Deb's not prepared.
We'll be like, it's fine.
It's okay.
We get it.
You get a pass.
I'm never prepared.
No, you definitely get a pass.
Mindy, what was your nerdiest thing?
Mine doesn't have to do with that at all.
Well, that's okay.
So
we can be well-rounded. We are well-rounded people.
So
Crescent City.
Deborah and I were fortunate enough to get to go see Katie Robert at a bookstore here in Kentucky, and fantastic. They are super fun and really just breath of fresh air. And
it was the release of Midnight Ruin, which we both got a signed copy of. And talking about all this Greek mythology, and I was like, wait, what? But like fantastically fun.
Yeah.
We had a great time.
Super fun.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we were leaving. I look over on this table and I'm like, oh, Schoolhouse Rock. And it's like a coloring book of Schoolhouse Rock, right? And this is my childhood on a plate, right? So
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill.
Wah, wah, wah.
Oh, wow.
I told Mindy I know the whole preamble to the Constitution because of
that.
We
Yeah.
had to memorize it for social studies. It was like a test grade.
Anyway, so yes, that was my childhood sitting right there staring at me, and I was like, should I get it? And Deborah's like, you should get it. I'm like, okay, bye. I'm gonna go get it. I was like, she didn't have to
Twist your arm.
twist my arm at all. It was
Yeah.
So
Have
I
you
haven't
colored
started
in
it.
it?
I haven't
Okay.
yet. I haven't yet.
We have craft weekend this weekend. Are you going to bring it?
It's coming with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
We color the bill for me?
Sure, I will.
Okay, I
Except
can't
for
wait.
it's white, so I don't know how much coloring I'm going to get
Make
in.
it an LGBTQ
Okay.
bill.
I like that. I like that idea.
Since Kentuckians hate the trans and they hate the gays.
Yes, they do.
And then we'll post it on the podcast page. It'll be great.
Not all Kentuckians.
Not all
We're Kentuckians.
No,
True.
I know. We're in the liberal part of Kentucky.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
We're in
There's Louisville,
and then there's
Kentucky.
Well,
Yeah, that
parts
is
of
true.
Lexington are
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
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 You know, do better, people.
And on that note, so next week is part 3 of our discussion of gold, chapters 27 through 37. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Like what you heard in this episode? Follow Our Nerdiest Thing on Instagram at instagram.com/Our Nerdiest Thing or Facebook at facebook.com/Our Nerdiest Thing. We love hearing from fellow nerds. Email us at ournerdiestthing@gmail.com.